Alright. I want to start by saying all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Harakah, Kudash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And shalom to the whole four elect.
Shalom.
Through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Harakah, Kudash. Lord willing, we're going to Revelation, the 7th chapter, and break it down. And hopefully this will be a very edifying video for whoever who has ears to hear and eyes to see it. So you want to kick it off?
Revelation 7:1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree.
Yeah, that wind is talking about the destruction. Alright? So basically you have basically what you have is you have 4 angels right now over the earth that are pulling back this destruction from coming upon the earth. Alright? So that shows you how close it is to happening. But the reason why they're holding it back is why? For the sake of the words of the Heavenly Father, His prophecies to come to pass. Alright? The ones that come to mind is Salak. Let me read this. If you got something, bring it out. I'm gonna grab something.
Yeah.
I believe it's Matthew 24 and 14 is what's saying in my head. But let me see.
Yeah, I was gonna go for that one.
It is that one, innit? God, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
So there was another verse, but
yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, Matthew 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
Yeah, so this word, that's basically why the destruction is being held back. Because basically Romans 10 goes into it further, where it basically says that it speaks of the word being preached to all the earth, and the noise went out to the whole earth, and basically everyone heard about what was to come. And then really that Matthew 24:14 brings it to a whole, that basically once everyone hears this, then them angels are going to let loose and the destruction is just going to come upon the earth. Alright? So I wanted to read this in dealing with the wind. Alright? So it says Isaiah 14:23, I will also make it a possession. Let me start from 21 actually. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they shall not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Right, so it's talking about Esau, Edom, which today is known as the so-called white man. Alright, the Bible speaks of being the Edomites, alright, the red man. Alright. So basically his lineage is gonna receive judgment. Marino says, for I will rise up against them, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant, and son and nephew, saith the Lord Yahweh. And that's the point. I will also make it a possession for the bitten and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the Lord of hosts. Now that besom destruction is that nuclear fire basically sweeping through America. A good depiction of that is Terminator with Sarah Connor dying, but then another great depiction is with Nicolas Cage, not the fourth kind, Knowing, alright, where they show you it sweeps through the islands of New York City, right, Long Island, Manhattan, Staten Island, just sweeping through the island, alright, and that's that destruction that's being held back by the angels. You got something?
No.
Just thinking, maybe something else.
continuing in Revelation. So Revelation 7:2. And I saw another angel descending from the east, having the seal of the living power. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads.
That's right. Let me grab this so you can break this down. The book of Ezekiel. This isn't the actual thing that's, well, this is an example of what happened before and what's going to happen now. Alright? So I'll start from, this is Ezekiel 9:4. You can break it down, yeah? And the Lord Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for the abominations that be done in the midst thereof.
Yeah. So that's going back into the book of Ezekiel, if you go to like the end of the previous chapter as well, you basically had Jake, as it is in this modern day, where they're into all kinds of foul, abominable acts. They're by and large, Jake is not following after or seeking after Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. They're not seeking after the truth. They're looking to other sources for salvation. So whilst that was happening, you had what? You had that small number, that small sanctuary that were basically, sighing and crying for all that wickedness that's going down. That's the same thing you have now. Now you have it where in this time, just as it's always been, you've got the Lord's elect, those that basically have not bowed the knee to Baal, those that are sighing and crying, they're basically witnessing all this foulness going down and then lamenting and basically just, calling curses on this place and calling it for it to be ended. It was the same back then. And that's same in the time when Yahushua was on the scene. You have that small number that basically are the chosen, and they'll be faithful. And then you have those that are out doing all that foulness, man. And then what? Go on. And it said what? Set a mark upon them. And that mark is that, for what? That exemption from judgment. Mm-hmm. And that mark is, that's why you have the righteous mark, you have the unrighteous mark. That's why you have Esau's mark, which is going to be that implantable chip that goes under the skin. That's going to be his mark, essentially, for you to be throwing in your, what do they call it? Not throwing in your hat, throwing in your lot with Esau. And then what? The exemption from judgment, that's basically you putting your faith in Yahweh Hashem Yahushai for him to keep you safe during this whole thing. And that's really what it comes down to. It's that dividing line. And it's like if you're playing on the fence, then really you're counted amongst a lot with those that put their faith in Esau. Because that's how real it is. With this word, man, it's really that cold. Because if you're out in this place, seeing all the madness going down, and then you're just like, well, I guess we can, just kind of deal with it. It doesn't really get better than this. And really, you're in the spirit of this place, and that's why it's because the winds are being held back, the destruction is being held back. Then, that's why it's like people are being further emboldened within the wickedness, because the hammer's not come down yet, but it's on its way.
I'll go two precepts and I'll go back to it. Romans 8:26. Likewise, the Spirit also helpeth our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray for as we ought, but the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that searcheth the hearts knoweth what is the mind of the Spirit, because he maketh intercession for the saints according to the will of the Most High.
Yeah, that's so even if you might not have throwing up the prayer at that specific moment, and your spirit is gonna be, crying unto the Heavenly Father in your stead, because that the anguish that you're going through, having to deal with all the nonsense that you see. It's like, especially in this place, certain things usually you can get accustomed to just seeing the madness that's going down, because like if you're really out there reacting to everything that you stumble upon, every minute you're gonna lose your rag. You ain't gonna be able to keep your sanity. So it's like you're just kind of like, you might just be just like, okay, I'm just gonna do what I'm doing at this moment, but then you're still gonna, like, in your periphery just be like, getting irked by these things as you're moving around, man. So then your spirit will just be like, yo, making that anguish known, man. And that's really, it's like, so it's like, you'll slowly, it's like dealing with this place, man. It's a trial, man. It's a process, because you're dealing with all forms of wickedness and madness on a mass scale. And it's like everyone's out there just thinking in accord with it, they're all down with it, they're all getting down with it. But then it's like you just gotta know that all kinds of madness is going down, but it needs to run for the time it's gonna run for.
Yep. This is Revelation 6, and that's really even that prayer of intercession. Technically, really, it's like our spirit. That's, well, Ezekiel 9. It says it go through the submit to the city and set embark upon them and say a sign and cry. Our spirit was crying for the angel to come to basically hear the groaning of our spirit, and that's why Isaiah 30:20 about you shall hear a voice. You should your teacher shall not be moved into a corner, but thy eyes shall see thy teachers, and you shall hear a voice behind you saying, "Go ye, walking away." This is the way, basically. So your spirit, because I know before I come into faith, I was vexed with this world. It didn't make sense, and really that was because my spirit was yearning for the word. All right. Revelation 6 and 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High, and for the testimony which they held, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long? This is spirits of men that died in the spiritual realm before the seat of the Heavenly Father. This is what they're doing. Right? Remember, these are spirits that were once in bodies, spirits of the saints. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet a little season until their fellow servants, also their brethren, that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. So these are holy men that died, and they're basically doing the same things in the heavens that we're doing upon earth, sighing and crying. So they don't stop. It ain't like, okay, even though when you transition, you're in peace, but that peace is, as the Lord's Prayer says, Our Father who art in heaven, holy be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. That's the Lord's Prayer. That's the prayer that the Lord exhorted us to pray in. Right? So I'll go back to Ezekiel 9 and 4 for the brother, and then we carry on with Revelation 7. Ezekiel 9 and 5. And to the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after them through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, and come not any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men that were before the house.
Yeah. So when the judgment comes down, that's when the whole vibe shifts. Because that's why you have like the now, where the Lord's got his men speaking, But by and large, people they're not heeding it as anything significant, and it's like they're just looking at it's that Second Peter's 3, where they're like, since the fathers have slept, all things continue as they were. Everyone's kind of looking at things continue as they were. They're like, okay, so you had the lockdowns kick off, and everyone was like, oh, on edge. And then afterwards, now it seems to have toned down. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, just get your shots and go back to life. But what? It's like the judgment hasn't come down. It's those because that's what it says. It's like the old and young, even maids and little children. It's basically going to be an indiscriminate slaughter.
Yeah.
And that's how the Lord gets down, and that's really how when the real comes to the surface. Because as it is now it's basically you can put any labels or systems or circumstances upon anything. No one's really looking at or dealing with things in any particular kind of way. They're just kind of like, just do whatever, and then run with whatever vile thing you want to be led to do. But then it's going to be what? It's once the judgment starts, then you're going to have the consequence laid for actions taken, and that's where it gets real. Because as of yet, it's like on a mass scale, the consequence hasn't come. A lot of people are getting jacked up, but it's not yet the point where it's that indiscriminate. Everyone's getting reaping what they sowed, and that's it. That's the the beauty of it, because it's something where in the end it's all going to shake out. Because for now it seems people have been doing all kinds of unrighteous, wicked dealings, and moving. It seems like there's been no judgment in it. And then even with Esau, with these with Esau going back, it seems like hundreds of years, this guy's just been able to do anything he desires. There's been no judgment, but these things are getting laid out, and then when it comes to the judgment, it's going to be cold, because that's the nature of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Is what the Lord is a man of war, the Lord is his name. That's Exodus 15:3. That lets you know what it's going to be. Isaiah 63, Isaiah 14. It's throughout the scriptures multiple times. Jeremiah 16:16. It's there that there's that point is going to come of judgment. And then, like it says in Lamentation, those who need to drink the cup, we weren't meant to drink the cup, but you drunk of it. It's like, and then now from now on, no more. But then it's gonna turn on to Edom, and then they're gonna be the one who are gonna taste of the judgment, and they're gonna have to drink the dregs. So that's the thing and it's same for Israel, same for the wicked Israelites. They weren't given any heed or significance to judgment occurring or coming to them. They were thinking like, yeah, just do whatever. Everything's gonna run how it's gonna run. But then what? Through the process of time, then when it's the time, the judgment comes down. And when the judgment comes down, all the games go out the window. And that's the beauty of this time. This is, the biggest judgment. And that's why it's like, you read, the 4 angels are there holding the winds back. Because it's like once it goes out, it's done. It's finito. And this is the greatest work.
I'll go a quick I'll read what you was quoting. It's Jeremiah 49:12. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. I got another precept, and then we can get back to Revelations. Revelation 14:1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. That's the mark. They had the mark of exemption, the understanding of Yahweh Bar Shem El Shai Bar Shem Kodash. And they wouldn't be if they had the mark, the name in their foreheads. All right, they can't have the mark of the beast in their foreheads, can they?
Because if the reaping for that is a whole different set of events. I got this when I was thinking of Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. Yeah, so it's about shifting it off, and that's why you have 2nd Ezra 6, where it says, Esau's the end of the world, and Jacob's beginning of the followeth. Where it's, Jacob had fast the hill of Esau. Because why? That's Jacob's bringing down Esau to get their kingdom, man. And that's how it is. It's the saints shall take the kingdom. That's why it's of the highest order for these elites to basically get stop Jake getting into the right minds, getting into this word, and rising up. Because why? That's the process by which these elites get taken down. That's why it's filling them with terror. Because the prophecies are there. They're just trying to not be Esau. That's the best they can do. You got more on
Nah, that's it.
Yeah. Go back to Revelation.
Yeah.
So Revelation 7:4, it says, and I heard the number of them that were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel, of the tribe of Judah.
So that shows you that number is a very powerful number. 144. 1,404. So yeah, man, that's and it's gonna break it down and go into the tribes. But that's the numbers, man, for the elect. Us doing this work, this is what we're gonna. This is really what when Paul said, I've run my race, and basically I know there's a crown laid up for me. That's what he was speaking of. He was saying I'm of the elect. I've shown it, all right. As the book of James says, show me thy faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. And Paul established himself in his works, because Peter said it, show diligence to make your call and election sure. And Paul, hands down, he went in, man. So he showed his worth, alright? And that's why he said, only, I'm good. When everything comes down to it, I'm good. And this is what we hope to obtain as well. You got a precept, right? Might as well read it. I thought you were going to read Romans 9:4. Oh, 11 and 7. That's probably what you're looking for. Romans 11 and 7.
Let's see what that says. Nah, we don't read it. Romans 11 and 7. What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded.
That's it. So this is all about the elect. That's that 144,000. They're the ones that are going to see it. And it says, they that endureth unto the end, the same shall be saved. So basically doing this work unto the end is really going to be the stamp of approval to say, look, bang, you're one of them guys, alright? So that's it. Excuse me. Remnant?
Nah, no, what I was looking for.
me quickly read this because this is a couple verses before what you read, which kind of brings the same point home. Romans 11:5-6. Even so, then at the present time also
read
there's
one verse above that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just read it all then.
Romans 11:4.
Down to 6, right?
Yeah, but what saith the answer of the Most High unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so, then at this present time also there is a remnant according to the election.
Break it right down. What you want to
I was gonna do it with this verse.
Yeah, you can break it down.
There's a remnant according to the election of grace. Because yeah, as it says back in the time of when Elijah was on the scene, it was just as back then there was 7,000, which obviously 7 is completion, that were reserved. They weren't gonna go off, and I believe it was like shortly after when it was saying like, yo, they've hunted down everyone, I'm the last one left. Then it met a prophet shortly after, man. So it was shown as like, hey, the Lord can just have man out there. You could think like, hey, I'm the last one left. Everyone's, and that's the thing. There's times because it says like from back then there was a number, and it says even so at the present time. So like in the time when Paul was on the scene, it's like you go into the book of Acts. Apostles were getting wiped out, man. Man were getting killed off, for sport, for just to please the people. Yeah. All that.
Power moves, man.
Yeah.
Policy.
Just saying like, oh, these Christians, so to speak,
Nero used them,
wiping these guys out,
yeah,
just to get just to please the people. And that's why it's like at every point there's a number reserved where it's like the Lord has it, where it's like, hey, they're there.
And that's going back, and that example they gave was speaking of Elijah.
Yeah.
And this even
after. Well, let me double check.
No, it said this present time he moved it forward.
Yeah, moved forward now.
But he said the 7,000. But like, hey, the reality is like in this faith, even though where you have the brotherhood, you're in it by yourself, man. And your moment really is like, this is your walk, man. 2nd Ezra 7th chapter goes into it. So, hey, it's really a lonely road. But you have to do the works, and the Lord is always going to have his men out there, man. And as it stands right now, we have the brotherhood to build us up, the Akim around us. And that's what allows us to have faith. I mean, not allows us to have faith, but it's a form of like a surety, the shoulder to lean on, so to speak. But there's always been a remnant of election according to grace.
What I wanted to check. Okay, yeah. Because it meets Elisha like shortly after. That's what I wanted to confirm. Yeah, so it's like after. It's like, yo, I'm the last one left. Then afterwards met Elisha, and then Elisha was even
took up the mantle of,
and went even further in the stead, like so. That's how the Spirit works. It's like this word, man. It's immense. That's why it's like trying to quantify it by carnal means. You're gonna struggle. You can't really put it in there.
Spirit is like the wind, man.
Yeah.
You just gotta go with the flow, so to speak.
Yeah.
If the wind pushes you east, go east. It's really it. You can't fight it.
Yeah, that's the people. That's like the way Esau's got the world structured now. Is like he's trying to make everything a matter of quantifiable numbers and statistics and all this. But then even then, it's like this guy don't know what the hell's going on. Like this guy's trying to go off into space and talk about billions of light years away planets and whatnot. But then he can't even go into the depths of the ocean, the depths of forests on the earth.
We're in the movie right now. Do you know what movie we're in? We're in the Lord of the Wings. I knew that would make you laugh. We're Lord of the Wings, yeah. And Esau's a wing master, sitting on the throne of the Lord of the Wings. This guy is winging it. That's where we're at right now.
Because that's the mindset he's got the people in. It's like he puts it in a box. He's just taking things and putting them in a box and saying like, hey, look at this box. I've sold everything in this box. And it's like, okay, well, you sold everything in that box, but what about everything outside it? But you know, people don't think too tough. Hey, you got anything? Or go back and read.
You might as well go back to Revelations.
Revelation 7 and 5, and it says, of the tribe of Judah was sold 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben was sold 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad was sold 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher was sold 12,000. The tribe of
Wait, let's run it backwards. Let's break down the tribes who they are today, actually. Just read them there, and we can actually break down the tribes.
Can't go. The tribe of Judah was sold 12,000.
That's the so-called Negroes.
The tribe of Reuben was sold 12,000.
The so-called Seminole Indians.
The tribe of Gad was sold 12,000.
That's the so-called Native American Indians.
The tribe of Asher was sold 12,000.
So-called,
I think it's
I'm trying to get the
what would be the thing is maybe Ecuador. No, not Ecuador.
No, it's Brazil.
Is it Salvador? I can't remember.
I
The one
love
just
the
south, because I think it's.
So it says
it might be Brazil down to
Colombians to Uruguayans.
Colombia. That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I know there was one over it. The tribe of Naphtali was sold 12,000.
The Argentinians to Chileans.
The tribe of Manasseh was sold 12,000.
Cubans. Cuba.
Them, what is it, Tony Montanas.
Yeah.
Of the tribe of Simeon was sold 12,000.
Dominicans.
Of the tribe of Levi was sold 12,000.
So-called Haitians.
You guys getting whipped up by Esau now, trying to get into America.
Yeah, that shows you this. Hey, that
all kinds of hell,
someone
man.
raised a good point on social media. They basically said, when did the Afghanis go through that? They didn't, man. They weren't getting whipped up. I mean, they were jumping, falling off planes and shit.
Yeah.
But they didn't get met at the border with that that level of hostility. These guys threw it back to the days of slavery, man. Came out on horseback.
On horseback, like hell.
Niggas ain't even in like 4x4s, you know, trucks, SUVs, with like pistols or nothing.
Yeah.
They came out like
flares,
it was
they ain't got
18,
tear gas.
like it was 15, 19 or some shit. Horseback, with spurs and shit, man.
Yeah, here, no.
That showed you, hey, you can't make this thing up, man.
For real.
That's how it goes.
Of the tribe of Issachar was sold 12,000.
That's Mexico.
The tribe of Zebulon was sold 12,000.
Zebulon is Guatemalans to Panamanians. Alright.
Yeah.
Where you had the Panama Canal. Where the prophecies it speaks of it, about a lot of great wealth coming through there.
That shit pretty much made. Like that's a linchpin of the American trade.
Economy, yeah,
trade, man. Cause that shit keeps it going. That's why, yeah, they had to keep that place on the lock and key. The tribe of Joseph was sold 12,000.
So if you read this, it doesn't make sense, because why? Why are they speaking about Joseph in the book of Revelations when Joseph isn't made mention of anywhere else but in one place? Numbers 1 and 32. Of the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, by their generations after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. You want to break it down now?
So yes, it's tribe of Ephraim, because when you go back to the forefathers, you had it was the sons of Jacob, But then Joseph was carried away in slavery in Egypt, and then through the process of time, and the time of the famine, I believe it was, maybe it was just before the famine. I think it was when the famine started. They went into Egypt, and then Joseph was in a prominent position, and then they reunited. And by then, Joseph had two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and I believe Manasseh was the firstborn. But then when
Manasseh, can't pronounce it. It's made to forget, because when you go into the Nomen Omen, it's made to forget about his captivity, all the things that Joseph went through, basically.
Yeah, and then Ephraim Apiah, which is
he is fruitful.
that's the one. And then when
Which is another way of saying Joseph, by the way.
yeah, and then when Jacob went to bless them, crossed his arms over.
Oh yeah, God.
And then the right hand went on Ephraim rather than Manasseh, because Ephraim was basically going to be the more prominent one. And hey, that was true. That's how when you had the kingdom of after the split, then Ephraim was ahead over the kingdom of Israel. And you had Judah ahead over Judah, Benjamin, Levi. So from that's like essentially they were adopted by by Jacob, who had his name changed to Israel. So that's why they counted among the tribes. And you don't really have, you have Joseph mentioned there, but it's Ephraim. It's essentially interchangeable. And of the tribe of Benjamin was still 12,000.
That's your so-called West Indians.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Benjaminites.
Yeah. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the thrones. So obviously this is where you had all the Romans, all the Greeks, all the Edomites, all the Elamite, all the heathen nations piling together to be saved, which is obviously exactly what didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you had those that come out of all these nations. You had Israelites that, actually I can just go to the scattering first off, and then we can just get examples. Because if you're in the church, that's what you'd be hearing. You'd be hearing like, this is how all the it's how the Gentiles come in. But that term Gentiles is not as simple as it appears. Deuteronomy 20:64. And the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Yeah, so this is a curse that was put on way back from when Israel had come out of Egypt into the wilderness, and then from back then it was known Jake was going to be scattered amongst all nations. So then you go through, there's myriad captivities, man. Jake was taken captive all over the show, and Jake was scattered all over the joint as well, man. They're scattered amongst all the nations. Isaiah 11:11 says it plainly. It shall come to pass, Isaiah 11:11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. So you're going to have a remnant of Israel amongst all these other nations. and that's why you see them being mentioned, and that's why another good example is Acts 2, because Acts 2 and 5 says what? And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. So you had those that were Jews, they were Israelites, devout men, and they came from what? From every nation under heaven.
Why were they coming from everywhere out of heaven? Because according to the law, these were men that actually understood that they were Israelites as well. Because they understood according to the law 3 times before. In the book of Deuteronomy, it tells you 3 times out of the year they had to make an appearing before the face of the Lord at his temple, basically, at the high holy days. So these are people that actually left. The spirit makes me want to say I believe they're men that just knew they were Israelites. But then according to the curses as well, you also have what? You have the scattering of our people. And remember, our people have been under many curses on many occasions, right? Where they went against the will of the Lord and were scattered before our enemies. So throughout the course of that, you had some that retained their nationality and others that took on those different nationalities. A key part of that would be what Maccabees, about the Hellenization of our people. But did you read Revelations 5 and 9?
Nah. Oh yeah, you can get that one. Because I was just kind of going through.
Yeah, because that's
prophecies.
That's the go-to. So this is Revelations 5 and 9. It says, and they sang a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to the Most High by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So the key word being out of every nation, out of every kindred and tongue and people, alright, and nation, Slakia. So we've been removed from them. Why? Because we were scattered amongst them. Let me quickly read this.
And that includes Jake that don't look like, tall, dark, and whatever. That's, Jake that be looking just like the heathen nations amongst them, man. You have these examples like these Italianos, these Irish as a good example. You have it amongst Elam as well, the Untouchables. You got in where as well? Where was it? Thingy, man, Saudi Arabia. They had slave trade there as well, Arab slave trade. You had Jakes all over the joint, just taken to all these different lands. Through the process of time, they'll just breed among with the people there, and then you won't be able to tell the difference. Just like when you're looking at them. It's funny as well because I think I saw a member of
Member of what?
Of the Untouchables got into the Indian government.
Oh, wow.
Or was it Punjab? Yeah, let me see. Because I saw it and I was like, I should take a note of that.
Yeah, you grab what you want and then I'll get one and then again. You good on that? because I'm just gonna. I
Yeah,
might as well
yeah,
read.
yeah.
Alright, it says Deuteronomy 28:64, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee. Now remember, this is the curses that befell upon the nation of Israel. So it says, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people. Alright, so all people, as it was read in Revelations 5:9, all kindreds, all tongues, all people, all nations. Alright, so it says, and the people, and the Lord Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even unto the other, from the east to the west. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. Allah, alright, Jesus, Christos, all these different idols that basically been created in this modern day era. Alright? You are God, do as thou wilt. Verse 65, and among these nations shalt thou find no ease. Alright, we find no ease among these nations. Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Lord Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. Alright? So now let me read this, because this is really going into what you just read in Revelation 7 and 9. So it's Deuteronomy 30,